Welcome to Elite Rugby SandC podcast, the best podcast talking all things rugby and strength and conditioning. At Elite Rugby SandC, we provide athletes with strength and conditioning programs that provides you with everything you need to become a beast and take your game to the next level. No matter what stage of the year or season, Elite Rugby SandC has a program for you. You can try before you buy, so try our 7-day $7 trial to get a taste of what we offer here at Elite Rugby SandC. So take your game to the next level, become a beast, and join Elite Rugby SandC today. G'day, Harry. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, going well. As you can see, I'm wearing me flanny. It's a bit chilly tonight in Canberra. What's the weather like up there in Sydney?
Yeah, starting to cool down a bit, but nothing like what you're enjoying, I'm sure.
Yeah. Have you seen many, puffy jackets out there in Sydney?
Nah, mate, it's still. I'm only just started wearing a long sleeve shirt, so it's still happy days here.
Oh, that's good. That's good. It seems like, the sun goes down, the puffer jackets come out in Sydney, even if it's not that cold.
Maybe over in the eastern suburbs, not over here.
The northern suburbs, I like it. So heading into round 8 of the Shute Shield, how's the body feeling, mate? And how's the mind feeling as well?
It's crazy. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, chugging along really well, top of the comp, and I was sort of thinking, I could probably play forever. And then you come off the back of a couple of losses, and all of a sudden you're a bit sore and stiff and whatnot. But no, I think going along pretty well, and I think mindset-wise, there's a lot of new guys at North this year, so it's sort of keeping it nice and fresh and sort of rejuvenating a little bit as well.
Yeah, it's definitely challenging when there are some new guys and new faces, but it's also exciting as well. You got to start building those connections again. What's been your message this week for the boys to sort of get up for this game this weekend and try and bounce back from a couple of losses?
Yeah, I think probably over the last few weeks we've probably been our own worst enemy a bit. And I think most of the times this looks like we're putting a little bit too much pressure on ourselves with some pretty poor, just basic skill execution. So I think it's just to loosen up a bit and trust the systems. And I think it's pretty easy to get up off the back of a couple of losses. It's pretty easy to get up for this one. So back at home, it should be exciting.
Yeah, 100%. It always comes back to those little things, eh? Like, catch pass isn't on point or communications going out the door. So they're easy fixes, but, you still got to work at them as well and implement them in the game.
Yeah, correct. And I think it's old saying, like, there was good effort, and we've been quite physical the last couple of weeks as well. But just, a few passes not sticking or lapses in concentration to sort of let us down a little bit. So, yeah, I don't think this week was about a rant and rave or anyone getting a kick up the arse. I think it was just more almost lightening up a bit and, just getting back to those fundamentals.
100%. So growing up as a young lad, what sports did you play and how did you end up playing rugby?
Yeah, so I guess growing up in Wagga, it's typical like country kid sort of stuff. So mainly for the most part growing up in the winter was Saturday was Rugby League, Sunday Rugby Union. And then in the summer, in the summer was cricket and touch footy. I think I only got into Rugby Union. I think we moved to Wagga when I was halfway through kindergarten. And then, I don't know, you couldn't sign up for soccer. They were all full or something. And then my brother went down and started playing rugby. And I guess anyone was allowed to go down and play rugby, even though the season started. So we just started playing rugby. And then we'll sort of rugby people ever since. My parents and that's, my old man became the president of the Wagga Juniors and stuff like that, and sort of just became entrenched in us from there.
No, it's awesome. It's always interesting because when I was growing up, it was Rugby Union on the Saturday, League on the Sunday. And many other places have told me it's the opposite. No, it's League on the Saturday, Rugby Union on the Sunday.
Yeah, I'm not sure why. Just that was just always the norm, and I never really questioned it.
So if you weren't playing rugby today, what sport do you reckon you'd be playing?
Today, I'd probably golf. Obviously, I enjoy those other sports growing up, but I think now when you do so much preseason stuff, you don't really get to play full season or anything else. So, I think in the next couple of years, when I hang up the boots, I'll be into the golf, I reckon.
It's a good sport, and you don't feel too sore, the next day unless you're really taking a lot of swings at the ball. But from a person who's been playing a bit of golf, this year, it's good fun, but the mental side of it as well. You're saying some swear words and getting angry, and it's a whole different sport in itself.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like usually got a pretty good temperament in rugby, but as soon as I get on the golf course, it all goes out the fucking window.
Mate, those F bombs just come out, the C word
Yeah,
comes out. You're like, what? Why am I putting myself through this? Why am I paying for this? You start
yeah.
questioning those as well. It's hilarious. So you've had a solid career so far here in Australia, because we might have some overseas listeners who might not know where we are. Before playing in the Shute Shield in Sydney, you did spend some time down here in Canberra playing for the Royals, and you also played in the Brums under-20s and ACT Griffins. What was it like playing first grade rugby in Canberra and playing rugby in the rep teams as well? What was that like?
Yeah, I think sort of just fell into Royals after school out of a few personal connections and whatnot. And then, yeah, I loved it there. It was like, for anyone who doesn't know, Royals like super sort of successful club over a long, rich history. But you go down to the clubhouse in the Oval, it's all like a humble sort of setup. Blokes who were playing first grade that day, flipping snags in the canteen. So I think, yeah, just really loved being a part of that setup, and it was just proper good club rugby. And I think, yeah, probably just, getting the opportunity to play grade and in some of those rep teams when it was still cold age, whether it was, playing Colts and sitting on the bench in first grade or getting the opportunity to start in first grade, I think just allowed me to progress my rugby a bit quicker than possibly some individuals who just have to stay in Colts and other club competitions in the world. So I think that opportunity to play against men a bit early really helped develop my game. And yeah, a couple of good years. Yeah, we won 2015. We won the Colts premiership, and then followed up, and I got a bump in the Colts final, unfortunately, so I didn't get to sit on the bench for the first grade final. But I was, yeah, sitting there on the sideline when BJ scored that memorable try at the end. So yeah, definitely a great couple years in at the Royals, and sort of, yeah, certainly helped my progression at that sort of teenage 18, 19-year-old age.
Yeah, it's awesome. BJ did mention that on the last episode as well, scoring that try, and I do remember that day because you beat me in Colts that day.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so
It was such a weird day that day for Vikings. 0-5 and pretty much all grades getting beaten on the buzzer. It was just such a weird day, but it's if it's a weird day for me, it was a successful day for you in the club, and yeah, it's just the beauty of rugby.
yeah, for sure. And yeah, that couple of days at the Royals clubhouse afterwards it was just awesome.
I think that's the thing that really separates rugby from some other sports is the off-field antics they get up to, but it's done in such a unique way, and it's all the brotherhood and the sisterhood there, and you just getting around each other, having a few beers, and just having fun, and just talking about rugby, talking about life, and just relaxing.
Yeah, for sure. I think like it's one thing that keeps me coming back year after year. It's probably is that off-field stuff, and you might have a shit day at work, but you get to go down on a Tuesday and run around with your mates, and the phone's off in the bag, no emails, and it's awesome.
100%. So you decided to take your talents to the Shute Shield and join the Northern Suburbs. What's it been like playing up there for Norths and playing in the Shute Shield?
Yeah, I think it's been really good. I've obviously loved being at North, and it's sort of ingrained in me now. Sort of just randomly ended up at North halfway through that 2016 year, and really didn't know much about the club when I turned up at all. Knew like one or two blokes here, and yeah, just sort of fell in love with the club straight away. And I've been lucky enough to play 100 first grade games here, win a premiership, and make some lifelong friends. And I've sort of said it to people before. I sort of hope that I'm part of North, for the rest of my life. But yeah, it's definitely been an awesome experience, and being part of the Shute Shield, which is probably I guess the toughest club competition in Australia, has been super fun as well, to place to play out my career.
What's it been like, stepping up from the John O'Den Cup to the Shute Shield? Did you really have to sort of work on your game a bit more or get a bit more, physical and put a bit of muscle on to be able to, play week in and week out?
No, I think, as I said, getting the opportunity to play against men in the John O'Dent when I was still in Colts sort of helped with that physicality piece, and playing against bigger bodies, because I'm not really a big guy myself. But I think probably the biggest step up when I came up the Shute Shield was probably more the speed of the game, and probably a bit more structured, especially in North. Like, if anyone watches it, we're probably renowned for having that fast tempo, highly structured game. So it was just stuff like that. I'd never really done a home shape before or anything like that. A lot of teams play the 1-3-3-1 now, or 1-3-2-2. whatever it may be. And that's sort of quite common in world rugby now. But at the time, I never really heard of anything like that. And so probably just that rugby IQ was probably a bit of a fast track as soon as I landed here. But that was probably the main difference in terms of the two competitions. And I think probably just more the depth as well. Like, probably when in my time anyways in the John Ant Cup, there's always 2 or 3 good teams and probably the other 3 were struggling a bit more. Whereas especially the last few years in the Shute Shield, it's been crazy. Like you can't turn up, half off, otherwise you just get your pants pulled down.
Yeah, 100%. The competition is very fierce up there, and you sort of don't know who's going to be, a threat that season. Like we're seeing this year, the Hunter Wildfires are really stepping up and showing their talents off. And previous years, it's always someone just clipping at the heels of, let's say you guys there in Norths or Sydney Uni. So it's a really good competition there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you really don't know who's going to turn up each year. And as I said, I can't even think of like a game that might be even half easy this year.
That's awesome. So when you did arrive in that 2016 season, what went right for the club in order to win the championship?
Yeah, I think obviously I was very lucky to come, halfway through that year. I sort of, from memory, had a bit of a slow start. And then just before I arrived, they sort of got on this winning streak. Funnily enough, that winning streak went on to last about 21 games. But I think, at the time, there was a lot of blokes who were sort of, that mid, 24 to 26 sort of age, really starting to hit their prime of their career. And like names that have gone on, like, Hugh Sinclair, Will Miller, Eri Simone, Angus Tarvey was playing for us at the time, and he's going to be an All Black. Connor Vess is playing at the Reds now. I think there was just like probably those guys who were just really about to hit their peak. And I think it just became this, winning just sort of almost became infectious. Like even in those really tight games when we're probably down and out, we just seemed to find a way to win for whatever reason. And I think it just became this snowball effect that we just, almost became winners. So it was really exciting. And then obviously we'll coach, by Simon Cron, who's over at the Western Force now. And he was, I talked about increasing my rugby IQ before when I came to Sydney. I think being coached under him for 2 years just accelerated my IQ massively. Yeah. And then like all the pieces just sort of fell into place. And it was, a pretty hectic day there at North Sydney Oval.
That's awesome. It's really cool to see, players go on and coaches go on now to higher honors. And we're seeing that quite a lot now in the Shute Shield. And even if players, like I remember Cam Holt played up there with Gordon for a season, and he's like, half the team, got signed that year, and it wasn't really a good year for them, but they got signed to contracts over in France or in the States or in Japan. And it's just a really good stepping stone if you do want to take your rugby career to the next level, or if you're just really happy playing Shute Shield week in and week out. It's a really good competition, as you're saying, and it is the pinnacle of club rugby in Australia.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even the last few years, like there's been that many blokes go over the Premiership. Obviously, MLR is a big one, and then fair bit in Japan. Like, it's actually crazy how many blokes you hear at the end of the year picking up gigs all around the world.
100%. So for rugby athletes wanting to play in the Shute Shield and be successful, what advice would you give them?
I think just from my time in the Shute Shield, I think one, I enjoy it, and two, I just, I really care about the club I play for. And for me, it's not necessarily about my own performance. It's about the team winning. And I think the byproduct of that is I've played my best football when I've had that attitude of, you start doing those little things like jumping on the loose ball, kick chase and all that stuff when you really care about the team and the teammates that you're playing for. And I think, if you're trying to get the best out of yourself, I'd probably say putting yourself in that environment where, you really enjoy it and you really care.
Yeah, you need to, if you are looking to play for a club in the Shute Shield, you got to make sure that you can fit their club values and standards as well and offer something to them, and not just sort of, going there for an opportunity. Like you got to do more, because it is a club team and they survive on people being volunteers and going that extra mile. And if you're a good teammate, on the field and off the field, then the club's only going to succeed. And those are the best clubs that I've seen and been involved with, is having people who are willing to, sweep the sheds after, pick up that rubbish, take down the pads off the post. And it all that stuff just makes a huge difference at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, you talk about guys, if they're wanting to get picked up elsewhere around the world, I think, when the team's doing well, those natural selections, which I talked about, with the 2016 team, they just sort of take care of themselves because the team's so successful and they want players from those teams.
And I'd say probably one thing for the Shute Shield, which is also relevant to many other club competitions, is, if you're a young guy, just be patient. If you're playing Colts, there's nothing wrong with playing Colts, for a couple of seasons and then eventually getting your shot at second grade, then first grade. Not everyone's going to, jump straight into first grade, straight out of school. It rarely happens, I would say. You just really got to bide your time and learn the skills, learn the way that the club is trying to play. Like you said, you needed to learn a bit more of rugby IQ stuff when you got to Norths. It's a great time to develop that in Colts. So just make sure you pick a good club, be a good person, but take your time to develop, because many rugby athletes these days aren't getting signed till, like, say, mid-20s. It's a rare thing to see people besides, Jorgensen for the Waratahs to go straight out of school and start playing Super Rugby.
Yeah, I think people probably get caught up, obviously, because they're the big media stories. But I know even at North, from a grade perspective, we had blokes like Jack Brewer and Seb Cameron who sort of came out of Colts and they sort of bid their time in the second grade, playing a little bit of ones. And then in the last 2 years, they're sort of in their mid-20s and they've just really hit their straps. And they're probably the first couple of blokes getting picked each week. On top of that, like my good mates with Hugh Sinclair, who's at the Waratahs now, I think he started in third grade Colts. Didn't play a heap of first grade in his early 20s, and all of a sudden he was first grade captain. And I think he didn't get his first full-time Waratahs gig until he was about 26. So, I think those opportunities are definitely still there for the people who just stick at it.
Yeah, we just got to be patient and seeing where the opportunities arise. And, playing good footy here could mean somewhere like an opportunity somewhere else as well.
Yeah,
so you just got to bide your time, be a good club man, and see what happens. So something that hasn't been around for a little bit is the NRC. I thought it was really cool to have that type of competition, and you had the opportunity to play for the Sydney Rays, which was, awesome to see. How does Australian rugby bring back a competition like the NRC, and do you think we need that competition again?
Yeah, probably something a bit above my pay grade. Look, I really enjoyed playing in the NRC, but at the same time, I was only really 22, 23, and I had a little bit of flexibility with work. But then I remember just like, I think it was 2018, 2019, like the Shute Shield seasons in particular, just flowed straight into the NRC. And you got a lot of those older blokes who, for instance, myself, I was probably should have only been playing on the bench, maybe starting. But then all of a sudden I'm starting, and I was almost one of the older boys because we were having to pick all these 20-year-olds because the older blokes couldn't do it because of work commitments and the training didn't really align for the same hours you're doing in the Shute Shield, a few of the travel requirements. So then in the end, for some teams in particular, not the Rays, it probably wasn't that second-tier competition that was supposed to be. It was almost like an under-23s team. So I think in that part, it probably didn't serve its purpose. I think there probably is an argument for that second-tier competition, or maybe, the Shute Shield's already so long, so it's sort of hard to get these blokes to go around for another 12 weeks. So I think there is some merit in it, but I think the structure that the NRC was in the end was just, it was kind of like it just wasn't, set up for the best players wanting to be playing. And then it sort of just became a bit of a, blokes just rolling out for the sake of it, trying to pick up a super gig maybe.
100%. And you need a bit of a break after a long season. So going straight into the next season isn't really sort of feasible. And you look at the Super Rugby players, they are only playing a short comp themselves and will have a couple of weeks off. Then they're into international stuff, but not all of them are getting picked for the international. So they had a bit of time to recover and rejuvenate and then go play season. Whereas the club guys, it's not their full-time gig. They're having to sacrifice a lot to go play these games and potentially get opportunity, potentially not, but they could also pick up an injury that could, set them up to miss some work and, all those little things as well.
Yeah, and I think like obviously it's easy to look over New Zealand like the NPC over there and like how fiercely it's supported, but those clubs have been around for a long time. They're sort of supported in the same way that club rugby supported in Australia. Whereas, these Sydney teams were slapped together. I think one year were the Rays, the next year were the Sydney Anchors or something like that. And like, you'd roll out in front of 10 blokes and it'd be 12 o'clock stinking hot in September. And, that's when I was probably thinking that's when I needed to take up golf.
Yeah, 100%. I think Tim Horan hits it on the fence where it's like, okay, if we're going to bring this competition back, we need it to be the actual clubs that already are there. So, like a
Yeah.
Norths, like Brothers up in Queensland, like they've already been established, bring them into it because they can sort of fund stuff themselves and they've got a fan base as well. And that would probably be the better way to do it if you're going to pick the best clubs from Sydney and Queensland. And then if you're going to have a Canberra teams, you might need to look at a representative teams there. It's a bit easier because we're all so close to each other and all that.
Yeah.
So, but if you're going to do it, I think that's sort of the way to go. And yeah, maybe just better plan it, not straight after the season. There's a bit of a gap or break or just something. So we're not losing players and not setting them up to fail for next season, because if you sustain a bad injury, you're going to be out for quite a bit and you're probably going to miss a lot of preseason next year. And that roll-on effect for next season is not going to be the best for you.
Yeah, and I think you sort of just need to incentivise, give the blokes who are, 24 to 27 or 28 in that sort of prime, sort of need to give them a reason to play. Whereas I think the NRC in the end, it was just like, what's the point? Yeah, I'm busted. I'm not going to pick up a super gig. Why would I want to just go slave away doing that for the sake of it?
Yeah, 100%. You need reasons to play and making sure that the players are playing for a purpose and do have some incentives, but also, that they're taken care of as well once they play. If they do get injured, they have the services there provided for them, not just you go figure it out yourself and we might pay you back later.
Yeah, for sure.
So outside of rugby, when you do get some free time during the week, what do you like to get up to?
Well, I guess in winter, I just like to kick back and relax with my mates. Obviously, like I didn't go to school in Sydney, so a lot of my mates are just the North Rugby boys. So seeing down at the beach or whatever it may be. And then in summer, as I said before, I've gotten into golf a bit, and I've actually throughout COVID sort of got into horse racing a bit. So I'm a member at the Australian Turf Club now. So I like to go along to Royal Randwick and lose a bit of cash on the horses, but it's still good fun to cheer them on anyways.
Do you think you could ever be a jockey, mate?
The boys keep stitching me up because obviously I'm not the biggest guy, and I keep joking around that I'm shredding, and I've gotten into the saunas a bit lately, but I think I'd still have another 30 kegs to drop before I could even saddle up. So that and the fact that I'm too much of a cow to even get on a horse, I think I'll be battling.
Yeah, 100%. Some of those things those jockeys do to lose weight and be so skinny is just ridiculous, and I wouldn't recommend it for anyone.
Yeah, I've got too much of a sweet tooth. I think I've already done half a pack of Tim Tams tonight, so
Just in
wouldn't be for me. I'm
preparation.
happy to sit there and cheer them on as they go down the straight.
Yeah, you're just getting all the energy from those Tim Tams for the weekend for a big game.
Yeah, that's correct.
Hi, everyone. We just want to take a quick break from this episode. We hope you're enjoying this episode so far and all the content we have produced. We appreciate all the support from our listeners and followers so far. If you haven't already, sign up to Elite Rugby SandC blog today. We provide free exclusive content every single week to our subscribers. You'll find our website link in our bio below. Remember to like, subscribe, and share Elite Rugby SandC on all social media platforms to all your family and friends. Thanks again for all your support, and now back to the episode. So how has strength and conditioning training helped you become a better rugby athlete in your career?
Yeah, I think probably as I mentioned a couple of times, I think obviously not the biggest guy, and then some of the centers you get around in the Shute Shield at the moment are massive. So I think just being able to build that body armor, I guess, and building up that strength and power just to be able to compete with some of the bigger bodies, I think is the main thing, and just the consistency of that. I mean, I'll touch wood here. I've been pretty lucky with injuries to my career, and I think just not doing anything crazy in the gym or anything outside the box, but I think reasonably consistent with it each week. As I said, it sort of just built the body armor to keep the durability to get through the season as much as anything.
No, it's awesome. So what makes a good centre, you think, in your eyes, for to play in the Shute Shield?
Um, well, I think it just varies. I mean, 12 can be a position that teams play a lot differently. Like I know I probably don't have the power game that some of the other centres that I come up with against do. Like they might just be hard, straight runners. Whereas our sort of game is I'm probably touching the ball a lot more than a lot of other 12s, playing almost like a hybrid between a 10 and 10 12. So I think it's just, fitting in around, what your team's game plan is. But at the end of the day, I think you're in that position where you need to be able to carry, catch, pass, kick, and you need to be a good defender. So I think it's one of those positions, a bit like a seven, where you need all-round skill base to perform your task at a reasonable level. But yeah, I guess it's one of those exciting positions where you can play it in so many ways. You can be a 105 kilo crash ball center, or you can be a smaller guy like myself who's looking to distribute a bit more and set up space around him and stuff like that. So it's a position that I certainly enjoy playing.
Oh, it's awesome. How do you prepare to play 10? Because I know that you're playing 10 this week, if I'm correct, seeing the team list. Does your sort of game plan and mindset change a little bit?
Um, a little bit. I think you probably. I sort of enjoy the physicality bit of playing 12, whereas you kind of need to step back a bit when you're playing 10. And throughout my time at North, I've always sort of been the second string guy. Whoever it was Gus, Sinclair, or my brother, or Jude at the moment, if one of them was out, I always seemed to get slotted into there. And I think did play a bit there growing up. And as I said before, it's just about having that all-round skill base that you can perform those tasks. I mean, sometimes I seem to go better at 10 than other weekends, but again, it's a nice little change up. And I think having played a lot of 12, you sort of get a good understanding of what a 10 needs. But yeah, it's a fun position. I don't mind being in that driver's seat, but probably don't want to be doing it every week.
100%. And it's so good that you do have that ability to switch out from 10 to 12. And for anyone listening out there, like you really need to be able to have a dual threat, and it just gives a reason for the coach to pick you. And I was talking to one of the physios tonight at training, and we're talking about the Wallaby squad, and I'm just thinking, okay, we can only take around 30, 32 plays over there. And, with that new concussion rule of 12 days, you really need to be selecting players that can play multiple areas, like say like a Reece Hodge, who can play pretty much anywhere in the back line and can also kick. And you need to be picking players who can kick goals as well. So you really need to be able to have that depth these days and be able to play multiple positions.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when I first came to Sydney, I told Simon Cron that I could play fullback, but I'd never actually played there before, but I was happy to get stuck in there. And then that was my position for the first couple of years in Sydney. And to be honest, I probably wasn't going to get a gig at 10 or 12 over Gus or Eri. So I think just having the option to play another position meant that I was in the North team to begin with. And then when I first started playing NRC, I was mainly playing fullback. So I think being open to have a crack at other positions not only makes you a better footballer for your preferred position, but I actually ended up having a lot of fun playing 15 as well, whereas something I'd never really considered, and it was probably my better position at the time anyways. And sort of, I was only 20 and small, so I probably wouldn't have been up to playing inside centre. But then, by the time I was 22, 23, playing more of 12, my body had matured. Yet I'd still played 30 odd first grade games, and I was probably ready to be a first grade inside centre at that point.
And you probably read the game a bit better at 15 to understand, okay, when I do make that transition to 12 and, play a few games at 10, I can understand where I need to, put myself in the attacking line and the defensive line to really be effective and dominant as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I just think it's just another string to your bow. And yeah, as I said, you just get to see the game from another pitch. So I certainly enjoyed playing 15. I think, as I said, probably a position that helped accelerate my rugby IQ. I'm not sure how I'd go there now. I probably don't have the speed for that anymore, but certainly enjoyed it in my earlier 20s. It was probably became my preferred position for a bit anyways.
Especially with the type of kicking game we're seeing nowadays, you probably don't want to be doing all that running anyway.
Yeah, no, I think I'm happy to sit in the line and watch the boys kick over my head.
Yeah, 100%. So what does your strength conditioning program look like, this week heading into the next round?
Yeah, so we've sort of changed it up a bit this year. Monday we all meet at the Shore School and we have a gym. We gym together. We sort of loosely follow a similar sort of program to each other, sort of based on how you're feeling and whatnot. And then sort of then the program's quite loose in the Shute Shield. Like, I don't know what other clubs are doing, but ours is a bit self-managed to an extent. You're given the program, and then it's about when you do it. So I think Monday I do my core lift with the team, main strength sort of session, and then on a Thursday morning I'll go do a more plyo power sort of session as a bit of a primer. Heading into the weekend, I sort of started that routine maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and it seems to work for me in terms of feeling like I've done enough prep and I'm strong enough and powerful enough, but also not overcooking myself as well.
Yeah, and I like that aspect of not overcooking and allowing for recovery as well. We can sort of get caught up a bit too much trying to do all this stuff during the week in the in season and trying to tick all these boxes with gym sessions and field sessions and all that. And then you get to game day and you're like, fuck, I'm pretty fatigued right now. I don't really feel like I can perform at my best. Whereas you should be heading into game day, not overly fatigued, not overly fresh, finding that good balance. Like, I've done a good amount of work and I'm ready to go for this game.
Yeah, I think sort of like obviously in the professional environment, you get that's all taken care of, right? Whereas I think when you are working full time or you're studying for uni now, I think you got to tweak around and play with it. And as I just work my 5-day week at work now, and I've got those days I go to the gym. Might vary my exercise based on how the body's feeling, but it started working for me, and that seems to, as I said, I feel like I've done enough work, but I'm still hitting Saturday fresh and ready to go.
That's awesome. So, for rugby athletes wanting to play first grade rugby, what advice would you say in regards to their strength and conditioning program?
I think probably one thing is just, I guess, be consistent with it. You obviously in that semi-professional environment, you always see the guys who are a bit looser with it, maybe being the guys who get injured a bit more. I think probably one of my strengths has been is just being consistent with it. I'm not doing anything outside of the box, but just consistently showing up on my Mondays and Thursdays and doing it. And then I think adding on top of that, probably something I wish I did more of throughout my mid-20s is working on that speed. Sort of spent a bit more time on my early 20s when I had time and I wasn't working full time. But then as, full-time work takes over, then something like speed or an extra power session is probably what drops out. And I think, anyone, especially young, I think really get hooking into their speed would be the best sort of stuff. My own brother Max, he sort of did a lot of work on his speed in his early 20s, and he's managed to go and play Australian Sevens and has just debuted at the Western Force. And I think his real X factor bit is his speed that he worked hard on during his early 20s. So if I could go back and change one thing, it's probably doing a little bit more work on my speed once I hit sort of my mid-20s.
It's probably the thing that can separate you from one player or the next or making that next team is, speed and power. And strength is always going to be needed, and you definitely need it to be able to be powerful and be speedy out in the field. But if you're not practicing and training those two attributes of speed and power, then you're not going to be able to do it in a game. So just sprinkle that in during the week. Like for me as a strength and conditioning coach, we're always doing it and as part of our warm up, on our Tuesday, Thursdays, and it's sprinkled into the gym program as well. But it's not overdoing it, as you said. It's doing enough so you're getting a good stimulus throughout the week, and then can utilize it at training and in a game as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think even like some of the boys who come back from Super Rugby programs or whatever, they're not necessarily like squatting or bench pressing that much more, but it's more those power attributes, like the plyo sort of stuff, or then just that raw speed that you can probably tell is a little bit different between the bloke playing semi-professional rugby and the bloke playing professional rugby.
You see Rob Valentini, he's probably our best 6'8", who just gets so many post-contact meters, and it's because he's super powerful and works on it daily and weekly, and he just continues to perform at a consistent level. And to be honest, is probably our best Super Rugby player this season.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you've got the opposite end, who's a small player like Corey Toole, who's just lighting up Super Rugby at the moment, which is great to see.
Yeah, there's no substitute for that speed.
It just seems like all this talent's just coming from Wagga, mate. It just seems like Wagga is the place to get good rugby athletes, eh?
They say something's in the water down there, but I must have been drinking from a different creek, I reckon.
Yeah. Does your brother have a good moustache as well?
Now, he's got more of a thin pencil seedy one, so they're probably the only genes I got over him that were a bit better.
How long you been growing that moustache for?
I had it on in COVID for a while, and then I got rid of it, and then sort of bought it back end of October, and I sort of just trim around and play with it. But I think it's saying everyone thinks I look weird with no facial hair now, so I think it's going to stick around a little bit longer.
Yeah, I've only ever shaven twice since leaving year 12, and both times I've instantly regretted it. One time was just after, first year of Colts for our presentation. I was like, screw it, I'll shave. And I was like, who the hell is this person in the mirror? I was a baby face. And then one time I was trying to, touch up my beard myself, trying to save a few bucks from the barber, and made a big mistake. And I was like, shit, why did I do that? Now I got to shave it all off. So yeah, I definitely agree that we probably do look better with the facial hair.
Yeah, especially as my head gets a bit more banged up, sort of
Mm.
covers a few nooks and crannies.
So when it comes to banter on the team, who has the best chat in North Rugby?
At North, I don't know. I'd nearly vote myself. Can you do that?
You can, for sure.
I'd only say that because recently, like we've had a few new guys come in, a few guys come out of Colts, and they think I'm this all serious captain all the time. So I managed to get a few of them. They think I'm being serious with everything I say. So I can sort of lead them down the garden path with a few different pranks. So I've been getting some good wins on the board there lately. Um, and then who else? Some of the lower graders at North, a bloke like Tommy Evans. Weird fact is he was on the $1 million hot seat, so he's just a quirky sort of dude with a good bit of banner as
Did he
well.
win any money on that?
Yeah, he won like 100 grand or something like that.
Fuck yeah, that's
Yeah,
nice.
so he got that. But no, I think banner's probably again one of the reasons I keep coming back to the club, because there's if you spoke in front of anyone else about some of the inside jokes, they'd think you're an absolute idiot, or they'd send you to a mental asylum. But you hang around the club long enough, and they just make enough sense, and it's all hilarious to whoever's in there.
And it's a way for players just to express something different and relax and just have a joke for a couple of minutes, or for just multiple times during the week, and distracting themselves from what else is going on in life and just having a good time. And I think that's what we forget in rugby. We're there to enjoy it, have a good time, work hard. But some things just you can't offer that laugh and that banter, in life. And it's a really good way for, players like yourself just to have a couple hours off during the night, during the week, and just have some fun with mates.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you sort of get that no bruises mentality, so everyone's happy to take the piss out of each other, or at least for the most part anyway. You get a few sooky blokes, but at the end of the day, you don't actually mean half the stuff you're saying. You're just having a good old crack because it is funny, and you sort of get those different cultures. Like we got a bloke over at the moment, Michael Scott, tight hair prop, and I just love his Scottish accent. So he just cracks me up with whatever he says, just because of the accent.
Mm. And that's another thing with rugby. You can meet all walks of life from different countries and stuff, and it's just awesome to meet different people.
Yeah, for sure. Totally agree.
So, what makes a good teammate on and off the field?
Good teammate. Well, good players is good to start with, but I think you've always got those flashy guys in your team and whatnot. But I think the blokes I've always admired are just those hard workers, who sort of always put their body on the line for you. Super reliable sort of blokes. And then I guess they are that, they're good banner. They're happy to take a bit of banner. They don't take themselves too serious. I mean, I remember when I first came to North, a bloke like Will Miller, who spent some time at the Brumbies, was just hard as, and he was sort of just like the bloke you'd never want to let down, because he was always just getting beaten up, but he'd just get back up. And I think those sort of teammates are the ones you just love on the field, because it sort of lifts you. You do anything for them because you're seeing visibly that they'd do anything for you on the footy field. And then I think just like those blokes after a game who are just happy to sit around and have a beer in the sheds. I mean, nothing pisses me off more when blokes are just straight into their mufties heading off to go see their missus or whatever. I think, just sitting there and spending time together in the change rooms and having a beer and a laugh, whether you've won or you've lost, is just such special moments that, as I've got older, you realise you never get back. And they're the sort of blokes you end up love defending next to and whatnot, because that you share those special bonds of just having those, a nothing night on the piss together, but they're sort of just, at the same time, they're just great memories as well.
That's something Dan McKellar was mentioning on the podcast as well, how he just loves after the game, no matter what the result was, just sitting around, having a beer and just talking about the game, talking about that one instance when you're just like smacking your head or something funny happened or something was really good and you want to bring that memory back for that player and the team. And yeah, those conversations and memories that you make in the changing room are some of the ones that you really want to be a part of and make sure that you are there as a team, celebrating a win, but also staying and getting around each other after a loss as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think talking about, you play your best footy when you care for the team and your teammates. I think they're the sort of situations where you're sitting there having a beer together and you're really starting to get to know each other on a more intimate level. And then, they're the blokes you care for. They're the blokes you start making that cover tackle for, because, you care about them personally. You're not just teammates, you're actually mates.
And then you start having those conversations of like, how's life outside of rugby going? How's work going? And all those little things. And you can really start to build a really good connection with them. And, you're building friendship for life.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, obviously mental health is such an issue in people of our age these days. And I honestly believe if more people had what I know I get out of rugby, if they were able to find that advice, whether it's a rugby club or whatever, there'd probably be less of those sort of issues in the world. So I do think, it's something that's so special about rugby clubs is you have those teammates who do care for you on an intimate level and stuff like that.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. So moving on to my favorite part of the podcast, the Triple H. So a hardship. Can you think of a hardship that sort of stands out in your rugby career so far? And how did you get through this hardship and what did you learn?
Yeah, I don't think any one particular hardship or anything like that. I was sort of thinking about this question the other day. I think something that I'm probably look back of and say helped me a lot was obviously being from Wagga growing up, whether it was, the Raiders SG ball, playing like the schoolboys or the under-16s Brumby stuff. Just all that travel that you had to do, your mum and dad taking you over, and it kind of felt like, your parents are putting in that commitment to take you over there and you're missing school and that. So it's only felt worthwhile if you ripped in and trained hard. So that's probably where I got maybe a good work ethic from, and training hard. And you always felt like you probably had a bit of a chip on your shoulder in terms of, at the end of the day, if you were on pegging the same sort of ability as the bloke from Canberra, they're probably going to get picked ahead of you. So you always felt like you needed to be that bit better. And I think, not necessarily it was a hardship or whatever, but it was just something that I got to experience growing up. And I think on the back end, it probably made me a better trainer, which then in the end made me a better footballer as I went into adult life, and just, I guess, taught me some good hard lessons as well.
Like I said before, there's some great talent out there in the country, and I think it was under 16 nationals where the coach brought in some talent. I think it was like maybe even 13s and 14s. One of the people who's been on the podcast, Andrew Heffernan, he was selected for our Brumby side, just bringing in that outside talent because they were better than some of the people here in Canberra, and they worked hard and we were like, wow, these guys are a bit above us as well. So it was really cool to see, there's plenty of talent in rugby. You just got to find it. And it's really cool for you to share that you were like, you did have that chip on your shoulder. Like, I really got to prove myself here and get selected and work hard for it. And it definitely paid off, mate.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, hopefully a few more guys from out in that area can start coming through, because as I said, like, country kids play that much sport growing up. You talk about the natural touch footy sort of ball playing ability, and then they play a lot of rugby league and stuff as well. So I think there's definitely some talent out there in that country pockets. I think it's just how they get access to that and probably get the same level of coaching and training as they come through the teenage years.
100%. So, hero, who is your hero and why is this person your hero? Or if you have multiple heroes?
Yeah, I was sort of thinking about this one. I couldn't really think of one. I think growing up, you obviously have the cliche rugby sort of heroes, but I think as I've got older and sort of become an adult myself, I think it's just even someone like my old man, just like, again, 4 boys. There was 3 of us who went through and were doing like those junior Brumbies programs, and we never missed a training, going over to Canberra and stuff like that. And end of the day, just a pretty simple, basic bloke, but just keeps showing up on the grind and, and never let any of us kids down or anything like that. And I think you sort of start to admire those everyday people as you get older who just stick at it and get out of life what they want, without doing necessarily these amazing lives that you write an autobiography about. They're just happy and content and doing everyday things.
100%. Shout out to Dad. So last one, highlight. What is a highlight that stands out in your rugby career so far?
Yeah, I think definitely winning the 2016 premiership was massive. Definitely still chasing another one. But, yeah, I think coming in, that was only my 10th first grade game at North, and still only being 20 at the time was just, a very hectic experience. And at the end of the day, I think, one of the reasons I play is to win premierships, and I think being a part of that year, it was just something that I remember watching the Shute Shield growing up as a kid when it was on ABC. So, to be part of that was, very special. And I guess on some personal milestones, pretty much as soon as I joined the club, I wanted to become a part of the 100 club, and to do that and then to go on and play 100 first grade games as well was something that I'll cherish for a long time as well.
No, it's a great achievement. And I think another good achievement is becoming a captain as well, to be able to lead your team out there on the field. So what makes a good captain, and what's your sort of leadership style as well?
I don't know. I think probably got to be yourself a little bit. Like, I know I had some really strong captains before me, like Hugh Sinclair and Will Miller, and I think at the start, I was probably trying to be a little bit too like them, whereas, at the end of the day, I'm not them. I'm a different personality. I'm a different bloke. So I guess just being yourself and being true to that. Otherwise, the boys are just going to see right through you. And I think the most important thing, something I probably need to take my own words of wisdom lately, is you got to play good on the weekend. I mean, if you're not playing well yourself, sort of hard to sit there and dictate to others. So I think, the best leaders play well on Saturday, and then from there they can assist others. And I think just being true to yourself and playing well yourself to begin with is good fundamentals of being a captain.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely agree with that. So last couple of questions. If you could only give 1 or 2 points of advice for rugby athletes out there, what would you say?
Yeah, I think one, just being it for the right reason, being a team where the team you want to win for the team, you're not in there yourself to get picked at the next level or whatever it may be. Be there to win and to win for your team. And then I think from a training perspective, like I mentioned before, work on that speed.
100%. You need speed. Speed kills,
Absolutely.
You look out in the field and like, damn, he's fast,
Yeah.
It's what gets you and separates you from scoring tries and probably not scoring tries.
I'd rather line up against a massive bloke running straight at me than being one-on-one with a quick fella out in the wide channel. That's for sure.
Yeah, especially
speed is much more scary.
Yeah, especially when they beat you, like, oh shit, there he goes again.
Embarrassing.
Yeah. So, who should be my next guest on the podcast? Is there any old or current teammates that sort of come to mind?
Maybe hit up Hugh Sinclair if you can. I think what we're talking about before, he's got a good story of starting off like third grade Colts and pushing on to then play not only with the Waratahs but then Australia A as well. I think there'd certainly be some good lessons in there for young rugby players coming through or possibly getting a little impatient.
Sounds good. I'll definitely reach out to him. So if people ever want to, reach out to you or follow you on social media, where's the best place to do that?
Mate, I'm just very basic. Harry Burey, at Harry Burey on Instagram. You won't get much content out of me, but if I have a few beers on a Saturday night, a few shit stories that will be deleted Sunday morning.
That's hilarious.
We'll probably get removed, but so you'll have a bit of a window to get some insight into some of the weird characters at North.
There we go. I love it. So thanks for joining me today, mate. It's been awesome to get to know you more, and thanks for sharing, some really good advice for people out there, and all the best for the rest of the season. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how you go for this season, but also for many more seasons to come along. So thanks again for joining me.
Cheers. Thanks, mate. And I appreciate you having me on.
Thanks for tuning into another episode of Elite Rugby SandC podcast. Remember to like, subscribe, and rate Elite Rugby SandC on Spotify and YouTube, and make sure you follow us on Instagram. Sign up to become a beast via the link in the description or via Instagram page. Also, don't wait, make that good decision and join Elite Rugby SandC today and take your game to the next level.